Single dad took his drunk CEO home. Her next morning action almost ruined his life. Mark's hands trembled as he stared at the termination letter. After everything he'd done, after the kindness he'd shown, this was how she repaid him. But what happened next would change both their lives forever in ways neither could have imagined. If you're enjoying this story of betrayal, redemption and unexpected twists, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more emotional real-life stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat. The rain pounded against the windows of Vertex Solutions' downtown office as Mark Jenkins worked late, finalizing the quarterly reports. At 34, he was the company's most reliable financial analyst, though few of his colleagues knew the full weight he carried. Since losing his wife to cancer 3 years ago, he'd been raising 8-year-old Emma alone, balancing his career with school pickups, dance recitals, and the quiet moments when his daughter would ask about her mother. Tonight was supposed to be pizza night with Emma, but his mother-in-law had stepped in when the executive meeting ran long. Mark glanced at his watch, 10:30 p.m. The office had emptied hours ago, leaving only the cleaning staff and, surprisingly, a light still burning in the CEO's corner office. Victoria Reeves had taken over Vertex Solutions 6 months ago. At 38, she was the youngest CEO in the company's history and had quickly developed a reputation for brilliance matched only by her ruthlessness. Mark had limited interactions with her, mostly presenting financial data during meetings where she'd fix him with those penetrating gray eyes that seemed to calculate his worth to the company with every glance. As Mark packed his laptop, a crash echoed from Victoria's office. He hesitated, then moved toward the sound. Through the glass door, he saw Victoria slumped over her desk, an empty bottle of expensive scotch tipped on its side, papers scattered across the floor. "Ms. Reeves?" Mark knocked gently. "Are you all right?" Victoria's head snapped up, her usually immaculate dark hair falling across her face. "Jenkins. Financial Jenkins." Her words slurred together. Come in, come in. I'm celebrating." Mark stepped inside cautiously. "Celebrating what, if you don't mind me asking?" "The Westbrook acquisition." She attempted to stand, swaying dangerously. 3 months of work. Closed the deal today. Board members wanted to go out, but I. She gestured vaguely. "Prefer my own company." Less disappointing that way. Mark noticed her car keys on the desk. "You weren't planning to drive, were you?" Victoria laughed, a hollow sound that didn't reach her eyes. "Of course I was. My driver quit last week." "Said I was." She searched for the word. "Impossible." "I can call you a cab," Mark offered. "No cabs. No Ubers." Victoria's expression hardened. "No one sees me like this. No one." She attempted to gather her things, nearly falling in the process. Mark made a split-second decision that would change everything. "I can drive you home." Victoria studied him through narrowed eyes. "Why would you do that?" "Because it's raining, it's late, and no one should drive in your condition," Mark said simply. After a moment of silent assessment, Victoria nodded. "Fine. But this stays between us, Jenkins. I have a reputation." The drive to Victoria's penthouse was mostly silent, broken only by her occasional directions and a phone call from Mark's mother-in-law assuring him Emma was asleep. When they arrived at the luxury building, Victoria fumbled with her purse. "Need help getting upstairs?" Mark asked. "I'm not an invalid," she snapped, then softened slightly. "But yes. Probably wise." The doorman raised his eyebrows but said nothing as Mark helped Victoria to the elevator. Her penthouse was exactly what he expected, minimalist, expensive, and utterly impersonal. No photos, no mementos, nothing that spoke of a life beyond work. "Bathroom?" Mark asked as Victoria kicked off her heels. She pointed down a hallway, and Mark guided her there, where she immediately sank to the floor beside the toilet. Without judgment, he held back her hair as she was sick, then helped her rinse her mouth afterward. "You should drink some water," he said, filling a glass from the sink. Victoria took it, studying him with confusion. "Why are you being kind to me? I've never been particularly nice to you." Mark shrugged. "You're human. Humans need help sometimes." He helped her to her bedroom, where she collapsed fully clothed onto the bed. Mark removed her jacket and pulled a blanket over her, placing the water and some aspirin on her nightstand. "Your address," he said. "For the morning. You'll need your car." Victoria mumbled something unintelligible as she scribbled his address on a notepad. Within moments, she was asleep. Mark quietly let himself out, calling a rideshare to take him home. The next morning, Mark made pancakes shaped like butterflies for Emma, listening to her chatter about her school project. His phone remained silent, no acknowledgement from Victoria about the previous night. He hadn't expected any. People like her didn't dwell on moments of weakness. He dropped Emma at school and headed to the office, immediately sensing something was wrong. Colleagues avoided his gaze, and his direct supervisor, Richard, was waiting by his desk with a grim expression. "Mark, you need to come with me." In a conference room, Richard slid a termination letter across the table. "I'm sorry. This comes directly from Ms. Reeves." Mark stared at the paper in disbelief. "On what grounds?" "Inappropriate conduct with a superior." Richard wouldn't meet his eyes. "There's 3 months severance, but you need to leave the premises immediately." Mark's mind raced. Victoria had fired him for helping her? For seeing her vulnerable? The injustice burned, but more pressing was the panic. How would he support Emma? How would he afford her medical checkups, the preventative care the doctors insisted on given her mother's history? Security escorted him out, his personal items in a box, colleagues watching in uncomfortable silence. In the parking lot, he found Victoria's driver returning her car. The man handed Mark an envelope containing cash for the rideshare and a curt note, "Matter closed. Do not contact me." For 3 days, Mark applied frantically for jobs while telling Emma he was working from home. On the 4th morning, his doorbell rang. Victoria Reeves stood on his porch, immaculate in a charcoal suit, looking nothing like the vulnerable woman he'd helped home. "May I come in?" Her voice was cool, professional. Mark stepped aside wordlessly. Victoria entered, her gaze sweeping over the modest living room with its mismatched furniture and walls covered in Emma's artwork. "I made a mistake," she said without preamble. Mark crossed his arms. "Which one? Getting drunk at the office, or firing the person who helped you?" Victoria flinched slightly. "Both, perhaps. But I'm referring to the termination." "Why did you do it?" Mark asked. Victoria's composure slipped for just a moment. "I was embarrassed. Ashamed. No one sees me like that, ever. I thought." She paused. "I thought you might use it against me." "Use it how? To what end?" "Power. Advancement. Blackmail. That's how the world works in my experience." Mark shook his head. "Not my world." Before Victoria could respond, the back door opened and Emma bounded in, returning from the neighbor's yard. She stopped short at the sight of the stranger. "Daddy, who's this?" Mark's expression softened. "This is Ms. Reeves. She was my boss." Emma approached, studying Victoria with curious eyes. "Why was she your boss? Did you get a new job?" The tension in the room was palpable as Victoria took in the child before her, Mark's eyes, but someone else's smile. "Your father is very good at his job," Victoria said carefully. "I made a mistake letting him go." Emma nodded sagely. "Daddy says everyone makes mistakes. The important part is fixing them." Victoria's carefully constructed facade cracked just slightly. "That's very wise. Are you staying for lunch? Emma asked. We're having grilled cheese. Daddy cuts mine into stars. Emma, Mark began, but Victoria interrupted. I'd like that, if your father doesn't mind. Over simple sandwiches, Victoria's cut into a star as well. At Emma's insistence, the CEO of Vertex Solutions learned about Mark's late wife, about Emma's dance classes, about their Friday movie nights and Sunday morning pancakes. She learned that Mark had turned down 2 promotions that would have required more travel because Emma needed stability after her mother's death. When Emma went to practice piano, Victoria turned to Mark. I didn't just come to apologize. I want to offer you your job back. Mark set down his coffee. I don't think that would work. I'll increase your salary by 30%. New title, Senior Financial Director. It's not about money or titles. Victoria frowned. Then what is it about? Trust, Mark said simply. You fired me for being decent. For helping you when you needed it. How could I ever feel secure working for someone who views kindness as a threat? Victoria was silent for a long moment. I've never had anyone help me without wanting something in return. It confused me. That's sad, Mark said, not unkindly. Perhaps. Victoria glanced toward the sound of Emma's halting piano practice. What if I could offer you something more valuable than job security? Meaning? Flexibility. The senior director position, but with remote work options. Core hours that align with Emma's school schedule. An additional week of paid family leave. Mark studied her. Why would you do that? Because I was wrong, Victoria said, the words clearly unfamiliar on her tongue. And because talent like yours is worth accommodating. And if I see you in a vulnerable moment again? Victoria's lips twitched in what might have been the beginning of a smile. I'll try to say thank you instead of firing you. Mark returned to Vertex Solutions the following Monday. The rumor mill worked overtime. Some said he had dirt on Victoria, others claimed they were secretly involved. The truth was simpler and more complex. They had reached an understanding. Over the following months, Victoria changed. The changes were subtle at first. She learned employees' names, acknowledged birthdays, even instituted a company-wide mental health day each quarter. When asked about her softening management style, she deflected, but her eyes often found Mark across the room. 6 months after that rainy night, Victoria stopped by Mark's office late one evening. Working late again, Jenkins? Mark looked up from his computer. Just finishing up. Emma's at a sleepover. Victoria nodded, then hesitated. I never properly thanked you. For that night. You gave me a promotion and restructured company policy on flexible work arrangements. I'd say that's a pretty substantial thank you. That wasn't for you, Victoria said. That was for the company. Better work-life balance has improved retention by 22%. Mark smiled. Of course. Just good business. Victoria lingered in the doorway. I have 2 tickets to the symphony tomorrow night. Beethoven's Fifth. Emma mentioned you used to play cello. A lifetime ago, Mark admitted. Are you offering me the tickets? I'm offering you one of them. I'll be using the other. At his surprised expression, she added quickly, unless you'd rather not. Mark considered her, the woman who had nearly ruined his life, who had then changed it for the better, who was now standing in his doorway looking uncharacteristically uncertain. I'd need to find a sitter for Emma. Victoria straightened her shoulders, back on familiar ground. Already arranged. My assistant confirmed your mother-in-law is available. Mark raised an eyebrow. Presumptuous. Efficient, Victoria countered, then softened. But yes, perhaps a bit presumptuous. I'd like to go, Mark said. To the symphony. Victoria nodded, the ghost of a smile playing at her lips. Good. That's good. As she turned to leave, Mark called after her. "Victoria?" She paused, surprised by the use of her first name. "Everyone needs help sometimes," he said. "Even CEOs." "Even CEOs," she agreed softly. 1 year later, Emma performed in her dance recital with both Mark and Victoria in the audience. 2 years later, Victoria joined their Friday movie nights. 3 years later, she moved into their home, which they had redecorated together. And 5 years after that rainy night when a single dad took his drunk CEO home, Victoria Reeves Jenkins stood in their backyard garden, watching her stepdaughter graduate high school with honors, her hand firmly clasped in Mark's. "Did you ever imagine this?" Mark whispered as they applauded Emma crossing the stage. Victoria squeezed his hand. "Never. I was too afraid of needing anyone." "And now?" She turned to him, the woman who had once fired him for an act of kindness, who had learned that vulnerability wasn't weakness but the foundation of everything that mattered. "Now I know it's not about needing people," she said. "It's about choosing them. Every day." As Emma ran toward them, diploma in hand, Victoria reflected on how close she had come to ruining not just Mark's life, but her own. How one morning's fear-driven decision had nearly cost her everything that now gave her life meaning. Sometimes the people we try to push away are exactly the ones we need to let in. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like and subscribe for more powerful stories about second chances, unexpected connections, and the courage it takes to be vulnerable. Share in the comments if you've ever had a moment where someone's kindness changed your life, or where you took a chance on trusting someone when it seemed risky. Remember, the connections we make can transform us in ways we never imagined possible.